In 1985, just because my father gave me a marriage certificate, I went alone to the capital to find my nominal fiancé from a prominent family, Shen Jiannan, yet he turned me away at the door, accusing me of being a distant relative who only came crawling now that the Shen family had prospered. He even sneered, telling me to go find the accountant for some money and not to linger where I wasn't wanted. I glanced at my own disheveled appearance, worn from the long journey. Then at the refined elegance of the girl he held in his arms, a returnee from studying abroad. With a cold laugh, I walked away. The next moment, I publicly presented the marriage certificate as proof. Chen Wn, who was in his arms, left in shame and anger but accidentally got into a car accident and died on the spot. Yet 3 days later, Shen Jiannan agreed to the marriage and even used his connections to hastily finalize the marriage certificate for 20 years of marriage. I endured 20 years of torment. In my later years, bedridden with illness, he ordered the nurse to remove my oxygen tube. After all these years, it's time we settled things between us. Next, you'll go underground to continue atoning for Wana. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day I found Shen Jiannan. Listening to his insults, I tore up the marriage contract right then and there. I'll leave in a moment, so I won't be in your way. But later, I met and got to know Shen Jiannan's sworn enemy, and he regretted it to madness. The earlier commotion had been far from pleasant, and after seeing her off, Shen Jiannan turned to me with overwhelming pressure in his voice. Ju Yao, why didn't you just stay in that backwater of yours? What exactly are you doing here? Looking at his young and handsome face, I felt slightly dazed. The memory of his frenzied expression from my past life, when he tried to pull out my oxygen tube, was still fresh in my mind. Now, as if time had turned back, we've truly returned to when nothing had happened yet, before we started tormenting each other. How fickle fate can be, I responded with an indifferent expression, utterly devoid of emotion. I only came because my father insisted. Shen Jiannan, if you're not happy with this, you can call off the engagement. Nowadays, people pursue free love. It's perfectly understandable to nullify an old betrothal agreement. Shen Jiannan froze at my words, his face still full of suspicion, as if worried I might be up to something. What do you mean? You'd let go of this opportunity so easily? Don't joke around. I just shrugged and waved the marriage certificate at him. Believe it or not, I can tell you like the one from earlier. Why not agree and set us both free? I'm not sure which part of what I said struck a chord with Shen Jiannan, but just as he was about to nod, a woman's voice called out from nearby. Jiannan, what's taking so long? Aren't you coming home? Hearing this voice, I froze for a moment. Across the street, a middle-aged couple who were clearly either wealthy or noble walked over. The lady wore a mink cape over a cheongsam, while the gentleman was dressed in a sharp suit. I looked at Mr. and Mrs. Shen, feeling for the first time as if a lifetime had passed. Shen Jiannan froze for a moment, an unnatural expression flashing across his face. Father, mother. I was delayed by something just now. Mrs. Shen, arm in arm with Mr. Shen, approached, spotting me beside Shen Jiannan. She paused briefly before her gaze fell on the marriage certificate in my hand, frowning slightly. This marriage certificate. The next moment, she suddenly looked at my face. Xiao Yao, is that you? Xiao Yao, looking at their faces, I knew I still couldn't avoid it in this lifetime. Though I wasn't particularly eager to escape it either, I could only nod in response. Uncle. Aunt, it's been a long time. How have you been? Oh my, it's really you. How come you're here? Why didn't you write or send a telegram to let us know? Your uncle and I are both doing just fine. Mrs. Shen beamed with joy, warmly taking my hand, while Mr. Shen smiled beside her. My, how you've grown. When we left last time, you only came up to my waist. Looking at them, I forced a bitter smile and spoke. Yes, counting it this way, it's been over 10 years since we last met. Unable to refuse out of respect for our parents' relationship, I was warmly welcomed by the Shen family. As the car pulled into the Shen family's suburban villa, I found myself momentarily lost in thought, staring at the building. At the dinner table, Shen Jiannan sat with tightly knit brows and suddenly spoke up. Ju Yao, are you doing this on purpose? Just waiting for my parents to back you up? As soon as these words were spoken, the cheerful atmosphere at the dinner table instantly froze. Father Shen frowned sternly. Shen Jiannan, is this how I taught you to treat guests? Mrs. Shen also quietly served me more food. Xiao Yao, I remember you like spare ribs, right? Have some more. Only after serving me food did she turn to Shen Jiannan and speak up as a reminder, especially since this is your fiancé. Upon hearing Shen's mother say this, Shen Jiannan immediately became displeased and retorted outright, "What fiancé? I don't acknowledge her. I already have someone I love, Mr." Shen snorted coldly, completely indifferent. "Which one? That one whose family runs a theater troupe?" His tone was disdainful, causing a flicker of dissatisfaction to cross Shen Jiannan's face. Mother Shen also sighed. "Jiannan, it's not that your father and I don't approve of you too. But Chen Wn isn't exactly from a respectable family." Shen Jiannan felt his pride wounded by these words and grew even more resentful toward me, until I took the initiative to interrupt and speak up. "No. Uncle and aunt, I came here this time to call off the engagement." "Call off the engagement? Child, you finally came to visit. Why are you talking about canceling the engagement now?" Mrs. Shen was taken aback and immediately voiced her concern. "Did we not treat you well enough?" Shen's father directly fixed his gaze on Shen Jiannan, his tone stern. "Was it you who just bullied Ju Yao?" Before I could even speak, Father Shen continued to scold angrily, "You worthless brat. Your Uncle Ju and I are lifelong friends. If it weren't for him taking a bullet for me on the battlefield back then, would you even have the privilege of sitting here eating like a decent human being? This is a great kindness. You must repay it, understand? Ju Yao traveled thousands of miles to come here. And this is how you repay her on my behalf." Father Shen had a military background in his early years, which inevitably made him hot-tempered, yet the genuine emotions in his eyes moved me while also leaving me helpless. This is precisely why I've been avoiding meeting them in this lifetime. In my previous life, it was Shen's father and mother who always protected me, allowing me to catch my breath during the 20-year marriage of mutual torment with Shen Jiannan. Their kindness toward me was such that calling them my benefactors wouldn't be an exaggeration. I've always feared that seeing them again might make it impossible for me to let go. "Why aren't you saying anything? Speechless now, aren't you?" Under Shen's father's pressing questions, Shen Jiannan clenched and unclenched his jaw beside me, hesitating for a long while before speaking. "Even if you're repaying a debt of gratitude, does it have to cost me my entire life? What am I, some object belonging to you and my mother, to marry whomever you say? Are you trying to drive me to my grave?" Father Shen suddenly slammed the table and stood up, his face filled with anger. Seeing the situation take a turn for the worse, I stood up and spoke at the right moment. "Uncle, calm down. Even if you think there's a debt of gratitude, it's not serious enough to require marriage as repayment." For a moment, all eyes at the dinner table turned to me. I took a deep breath and continued, "Besides, when my father saved you back then, he never expected any repayment. Now, I beg you to grant my request and let me call off the engagement." As soon as the words were spoken, Shen Jiannan beside me also spoke up. "That's right, father, mother, I don't like her at all. Forced affection isn't sweet. Nowadays, free love is the trend. Arranged marriages are a thing of the past." Shen's father's gaze shifted back and forth between me and Shen Jiannan. Sensing my determination and Shen Jiannan's opposition, they both sighed deeply. "Fine. I can't control you anymore." Father Shen sat back in his chair, fuming with anger. Mother Shen looked troubled but didn't stop them, only instructing the servant to bring over their copy of the marriage certificate. Afterward, Mother Shen and I took the marriage certificate and destroyed it on the spot. I watched the red paper turn to ashes and let out a deep sigh of relief. From now on, Shen Jiannan and I are finally done with each other. Shen Jiannan also stared blankly at the marriage certificate, and when he snapped out of it, his gaze at me was deep and intense. When I looked again in confusion, it had turned back into the familiar disdain. "Although the marriage certificate is gone, Xiao Yao, Auntie truly likes you. Why not stay in the capital for a few more days? Consider it your uncle and aunt fulfilling their duty as hosts." Mrs. Shen, out of guilt, insisted on having me stay as a guest. Before I could even voice my refusal, Mr. Shen nodded in agreement, his tone tinged with helplessness after his anger had subsided. "Let Jiannan show you around properly before you go back, lest your father, that old rascal, accuse me of mistreating his daughter." At first, Shen Jiannan wasn't very willing, But seeing his parents take the initiative to compromise over the marriage certificate, he eventually agreed. Seeing this, I couldn't very well object. After dinner, while I was engrossed in admiring the forget-me-nots in the small garden, Shen Jiannan approached me first and spoke fiercely. Ju Yao, I'm warning you, don't get any improper ideas about me. What kind of joke is this? The evening breeze was slightly cool, and I was almost greedily savoring the leisure of youth free from illness and pain. Interrupted by Shen Jiannan, I retorted with a hint of impatience. Improper ideas. I reached out and gently touched the flower, then stood up and looked coldly at Shen Jiannan, speaking disdainfully. You, Shen Jiannan still wanted to say something, but I turned and walked away without hesitation. When words don't align, even half a sentence is too much. After that day, I stayed at the Shen family's residence. My parents aren't particularly concerned about the engagement. They simply believe that if I like the person, we can get along, and if I don't, we can call it off. Coming to the capital was also meant to broaden my horizons. However, I still plan to write to them about breaking off the engagement and let them know I'm safe, so they won't worry. Because I was occupying the Shen family's study, Shen Jiannan saw me writing as soon as he entered and immediately mocked me. Oh, you never even went to college, yet you can write. I remained silent and continued writing the letter with my fountain pen. Shen Jiannan, finding himself unwelcome, moved closer and recognized the handwriting as that of Shen's mother, his tone laced with suspicion. Song typeface. Where did you learn this? How come it's the same as my mother's handwriting? You women really know how to play the long game. You deliberately learned this to win my mother's favor, didn't you? I couldn't be bothered to engage with him and had no intention of explaining a single word. The characters are indeed in Song typeface, and they are indeed related to Mother Shen. Except that it was in my previous life when she taught me. There's no need to tell Shen Jiannan about this, seeing that I remained silent and was merely writing a family letter, leaving him no grounds to nitpick. Shen Jiannan lingered briefly before snorting coldly and leaving. I wrote 2 full pages effortlessly, and when Old Master Shen and Shen Jiannan entered and saw them, they immediately praised my work. Xiao Yao, your handwriting is quite impressive. It bears a striking resemblance to your aunt's. No sooner had he finished praising than Shen Jiannan's face darkened, about to sneer, when suddenly Old Man Shen's face flushed red, as if he couldn't catch his breath despite several deep inhales. Father. Shen Jiannan was startled and immediately rushed forward to massage him anxiously. I was also slightly stunned, immediately realizing that it was an old battlefield injury of Mr. Shen acting up. His trachea had been damaged years ago during biological warfare. I quickly followed, pressing several acupoints on Old Man Shen, and urgently spoke to Shen Jiannan. Shen Jiannan, go get a prescription right away, exactly as I say, 3 tails each of ephedra, white peony root, dried ginger, and Pinellia ternata, plus 2 tails each of dragon tail and Scasandra chinensis. Shen Jiannan was taken aback for a moment, then furrowed his brows tightly. Mr. Shen took a while to recover. His face still somewhat pale, but he had truly passed the critical period. He looked at me with newfound respect for the acupoints I had pressed and the prescription I had mentioned. Xiao Yao, you even know traditional Chinese medicine. That's incredible. To this, I could only give an evasive answer. I don't have any, uncle, it's just some unconventional methods and folk remedies taught to me by an itinerant old Chinese doctor who passed by our house when I was a child, actually. This was knowledge I gained after marrying Shen Jiannan in my previous life. When medical science advanced rapidly over more than a decade, after Shen's mother and I consulted numerous famous doctors, the best physician from the provincial hospital told us this. In my past life, this very prescription did indeed prevent uncle's illness from recurring. Hearing this, Shen Jiannan sneered coldly from the side. Ju Yao, I never expected you to be so thoroughly prepared, even considering my father's illness. So what was all that before? Playing hard to get. I didn't respond, and Mr. Shen turned his head to angrily scold. You insolent brat. Stop stirring up trouble. If you're really that idle, go prepare the prescription Xiao Yao just mentioned. Father, why do you always favor her so much? Shen Jiannan left indignantly. And the father-son pair parted on bad terms. Knowing there was no point lingering here, I began pondering my next move and couldn't help but think of heading south to try my hand at business. That very afternoon, I went to the newsstand to buy newspapers about Southern reforms. Sure enough, the country was still deciding which city to establish as a special economic zone, and the entire Southern economy was in a state of revival, offering countless opportunities. My heart was pounding. And I felt a long-lost joy at being able to decide my own fate. I was engrossed in reading the newspaper when an unfriendly voice interrupted my thoughts. As luck would have it, it was Chen Wn and Shen Jiannan. Chen Wn was dressed in a flamboyant little Western-style dress, while Shen Jiannan looked even more tall and straight in his dark grey suit. I just gave them a cold glance, thinking that these two were indeed a perfect match. It seemed Chen Wn had already learned about my identity and was venting her jealousy to Shen Jiannan. Jiannan, what does she mean by this? Relying on her former status as your fiancé to shamelessly move into your house first. If she's playing hard to get and actually succeeds, what am I supposed to do? Seeing this, Shen Jiannan quickly pulled her into his arms and comforted her. Wanna, why bother stooping to the level of someone who dreams of climbing the social ladder? Besides, I would never fulfill her wishes. I'll only marry one woman in my lifetime. No sooner had he finished this earnest declaration than he turned and saw me. His steps faltered, and a flicker of discomfort crossed his face. Ju Yao, what are you doing here? Chen Wan was just talking about me when she turned around and saw me, immediately turning sarcastic. Oh, isn't this Jiannan's cousin? You're Ju Yao, right? Let me tell you. You're just a country bumpkin trying to change your fate by clinging to the Shen family. You'd better give up on this delusion. To this, I simply responded with cold denial. You're really overthinking it. That Shen Jiannan you treat like a treasure is nothing to me. As soon as these words were spoken, both their expressions noticeably changed. A flash of humiliation crossed Shen Jiannan's face as his expression turned cold. Chen Wn, standing nearby, snapped out of her daze and spoke with disdain. Oh really? Then why were you following us, out of all these streets? How is it that we just happened to run into you here? She's asking me. I should be the one asking them. If I had known I'd run into these two here, I would have taken the long way to another newsstand. I ignored them and simply picked up the newspaper to ask the price. Shen Jiannan saw the newspaper I bought had Southern Development on the cover and scoffed at me again. Ju Wn, you can barely read a few big characters. What are you putting on airs for, knowing my parents are in business, trying to find common ground with them? You're trying way too hard. He thought I was reading the newspaper just to please Mr. and Mrs. Shen. I took a deep breath, feeling annoyed by his relentless pestering. Shen Jiannan, enough. I'll be leaving in a couple of days and won't disturb you and Chen Wn anymore. Can't you just stop being such an eyesore in front of me? Chen Wn burst out laughing mockingly. Leaving in a couple of days? I don't believe you'd give up this life of luxury so easily. Shen Jiannan's face also darkened directly. Ju Yao, seeing someone like you who clings to others for money makes me sick. I slammed the newspaper onto the table with a sharp smack, turning my head to deliver the merciless insult. Disgusting. Who the hell do you think you are to call me disgusting, young Master Shen? Need I remind you, it's you people who are pestering me, not the other way around. After saying this, I turned to Chen Wn. You just called me what, a pheasant? Then what are you now? A pheasant who got here a few days earlier and put on phoenix feathers. Chen Wn, you know exactly what's on your mind. I mercilessly belittled Chen Wn until she was worthless. You, how could you say such things about me? Jiannan and I truly love each other. Chen Wan's eyes turned red, and she immediately put on an affected act, covering her face as she left. Shen Jiannan suddenly grew nervous, chasing after her and pulling Chen Wn back, murmuring words of comfort. All right, Wanna, don't be in such a hurry to leave. No one misses you that much. I twitched the corner of my mouth and was about to speak again when Shen Jiannan punched me without hesitation. Who told you to talk about Wanna like that? In an instant, I felt a sharp pain in my face, then uncontrollably fell backward. The next moment, a pair of sturdy arms caught me. Shen Jiannan, is this how you treat a lady? A deep voice sounded by my ear. I covered my nose in a daze for a long while, then something soft pressed against my bleeding nose. It was a handkerchief. Thank you, I spoke in a low voice, looking up to meet a pair of concerned eyes. This person was exceptionally tall, with sharply defined facial features that exuded an air of efficiency and capability. This face looked somewhat familiar. Just as I was about to search my memory carefully, Shen Jiannan gave me the answer. Liang Jun, what are you doing here? In an instant, he seemed like he had his tail stepped on. With all his fur standing on end, it came back to me. Liang Jun. Another second-generation heir like Shen Jiannan. Both their fathers had transitioned from military careers to business and held considerable influence in the industry. In my past life, the Liang and Shen families had clashed over business interests, openly and covertly tripping each other up at every turn. So naturally, the two of them were at odds at this moment. Liang Jun was currently pressing a handkerchief gently against my wound to stop the bleeding. Before he could respond, I suddenly snapped out of my daze. Feeling inexplicably embarrassed, I took the handkerchief and thanked him again. Seeing this, he finally turned his head and sneered at Shen Jiannan. Shen Jiannan, you've really regressed, haven't you? Getting involved in women's squabbles and even hitting a woman. Are you even a man anymore? His barrage of sarcasm was utterly relentless, standing on moral high ground to crush Shen Jiannan from every angle. As expected, these remarks drew pointed fingers from passers-by. What's going on here? How could you hit a girl like that? This is outrageous. The world is going to the dogs. People's hearts aren't what they used to be. How can a man hit a woman? He's just too pathetic. Hearing their words, Shen Jiannan couldn't save face and gritted his teeth as he snapped at Liang Jun. What I do is none of your business. Ju Yao, let's go. As he said this, he tried to pull me away, but I immediately shook him off without hesitation. Young Master Shen, there's no need. Remember to tell your parents about my departure, so you won't think I'm freeloading off your family. Seeing this, Chen Wn sized up Liang Jun briefly before eagerly fanning the flames from the sidelines. No wonder you're rejecting the Shen family. You've already found someone else to latch onto. Shen Jiannan's expression darkened even more. It took him a long while to suppress his anger before his tone softened. You should at least let me take you to treat your injuries. To this, I only responded with a cold stare, while Liang Jun became even more mocking. Oh, is young Master Shen changing his attitude so quickly? Just finished hitting someone and now wants to take them for treatment. Not even an apology. Shen Jiannan clenched his fists until they creaked. Seeing the situation turning unfavorable, Chen Wn quickly pretended to feel unwell. Jiannan, I have such a bad headache. Could you take me to the clinic, please? Shen Jiannan gave us a deep look before reluctantly agreeing. I could see clearly that it was Chen Wn who gave him face, allowing him to leave with dignity. As they walked away, the crowd erupted in jeers, filled with disdain. Watching the two of them, all I could think was to wish them a lifetime of happiness. Just don't drag me into their mess again. At that moment, Liang Jun, who was standing behind me, suddenly spoke up, sounding genuinely concerned. Your surname is Ju. We haven't officially met. I'm Liang Jun. I could tell he wanted to chat more, but I just felt uncomfortable and wanted to leave as soon as possible. I'm sorry, Mr. Liang, but I have other matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave now. I'll make sure to properly thank you next time. After apologizing, I returned to the Shen residence. Just as I was packing my things, Shen Jiannan barged in by kicking the door open. Ju Yao, you made me lose so much face today. How could you be so outrageous? I packed my luggage, glancing at him indifferently before retorting. Oh really, Shen Jiannan, and what about you? Aren't you outrageous? Shen Jiannan caught sight of the bruise on my face and flashed a momentary look of guilt. I was just too angry. You shouldn't have spoken to Chen Wn like that. Seeing that he still chose to stand by Chen Wan's side, I lost all desire to continue talking to him and just kept packing my things. Are you ignoring me or what? After failing to get a response from me several times, Shen Jiannan grew impatient and actually flipped over my suitcase. Bang! I stared at my scattered belongings on the floor, then looked up at Shen Jiannan with fierce resentment. What do you want? Shen Jiannan saw that I finally responded and arrogantly lifted his chin. What do you want? You must apologize to Chen Wn. I refused without hesitation. No way, in your dreams. Shen Jiannan slightly widened his eyes and immediately launched into a barrage of accusations. Ju Yao, don't push your luck when given face. You've been living off our Shen family in the capital all this time. Don't be so ungrateful, I retorted directly. Rely on the Shen family. If I'm going to rely on anyone, it would be uncle and aunt. Have you, Shen Jiannan, ever spent a single penny on me. Upon hearing this, Shen Jiannan's face flashed with embarrassment, and he couldn't help but argue defensively, all these things from the Shen family will be mine sooner or later. You must apologize to Chen Wn. Little did he expect that before his words even faded, Father Shen entered and scolded him. The Shen family is yours, you unfilial son. Are you so eager for me to die? Mother Shen then entered the room, her face also full of reproach. Jiannan, your father and I have heard about what happened today. You really shouldn't have acted like that. Shen's father was furious about Shen Jiannan's actions. How could the Shen family produce such a coward who hits women? Upon hearing this, Shen Jiannan stiffened his neck. His face flushed red as he tried to justify himself. If it weren't for Ju Yao provoking me, how could I have treated her like that? Besides, I only touched her lightly. How does that make me someone who hits women? Mister, Shen stared at him for a long moment, sighing in frustration at his son's failure to meet expectations, daring to act but not daring to take responsibility. Fine, Shen Jiannan, you're really something. Mrs. Shen also looked utterly disappointed, clearly deeply upset. How can your father and I possibly entrust the Shen family to you when you're like this? Shen Jiannan failed to perceive his parents' well-intentioned efforts and directly refuted them. Anyway, I'm your only son, you can't possibly abandon me. Are you trying to drive me to my grave? At these words, Mr. Shen took a deep breath on the spot, about to have an episode. I quickly joined Mrs. Shen in calming him down. After Mr. Shen had recovered a bit, I directly expressed my determination to leave. Uncle and Aunt, I've been troubling you a lot recently. I'll be leaving the capital this afternoon. Seeing my resolute attitude, Mr. and Mrs. Shen had no choice but to agree and even gave me travel expenses. Thank you, Uncle and Aunt. I whispered my thanks, giving them a deep look before picking up my suitcase. Once I leave, I don't know when I'll be able to see them again. Shen Jiannan stood frozen for a long moment, as if only now truly realizing that I was really leaving, murmuring softly, Ju Yao, are you really leaving? To this, I merely responded with a cold laugh. What else? Shen Jiannan, let's never meet again. After saying this, I picked up my suitcase and turned to leave, but just as I stepped out of the Shen family's Western-style house, Shen Jiannan chased after me. Ju Yao, wait. He grabbed my suitcase in one swift motion, panting as he spoke, you're not allowed to leave. I stared at him in bewilderment, convinced he'd lost his mind. Not leave? Weren't you the one who kept wishing for me to go? What? Changed your mind now? Shen Jiannan stared at me for a long moment before hesitantly speaking up. My father can't do without your massages when he has an episode, and my mother needs your company too. The Shen family needs you. Seeing his expression, I thought of the way he had looked at me while I was massaging his father earlier, and a chill ran through my heart. I blurted out a seemingly random question. Have you been reborn? Shen Jiannan froze, then after a long pause, nodded slightly. Yes, I felt a sudden chill run through my body. I had already suspected something from the way he showed concern for Chen Wn earlier, back then, when Chen Wn was furious with me and turned to cross the street. It was Shen Jiannan who pulled her back without hesitation, that look of deep care. I had only seen it in my previous life. Asking him now is just for confirmation. Since we've been reborn, there's nothing more to say. I take a deep breath, feeling only exhaustion. Shen Jiannan, Chen Wn can learn how to take care of your parents too. If you don't love me, why cling to me? Since we've both been given a second chance, can't you just let me go? Shen Jiannan froze for a moment, then shook his head. I just think Wanna has a spoiled personality and isn't very good at taking care of others. She probably wouldn't handle these matters as well as you do. Ju Yao, can't I just acknowledge you as my god sister? From now on, you'll be the adopted daughter of the Shen family. He was even willing to use this method to keep me here for the rest of my life. I sneered inwardly, scoffing at the idea. No, I don't care for it. Find someone else if you like. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. After saying this, I turned and left the Shen residence, heading straight for the train station. Unexpectedly, I ran into Liang Jun, who was also preparing to head south. As we talked, I was quite surprised. You're heading south too? Liang Jun was pleasantly surprised to see me and then nodded with a smile. Yes. My father said there are business opportunities in the south. So he encouraged me to go and try my luck. His family's business acumen is truly undeniable. I couldn't help but feel a bit impressed. Just as I was about to speak again, a voice from afar interrupted. Great, Ju Yao, so this is why you rejected me. You'd already found your next family. Shen Jiannan, who had rushed over covered in dust, stared at us standing side by side, his eyes reddening. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, I slapped him directly across the face. You hit me. Shen Jiannan looked utterly surprised. At one point, I could tell he was instantly furious. But he forcibly suppressed it. He glared fiercely at Liang Jun, then grabbed my arm and pulled me away from his sight. Ju Yao, as long as you're willing to stay, I can let bygones be bygones about you killing Chen Wn. Even killing me can be treated as if it never happened. Can't we just pretend it was all a bad dream? He walked while earnestly trying to persuade me, but I shook off his hand and let out a cold laugh. Shen Jiannan, Chen Wan's death had nothing to do with me. The reason I tried to kill you in the hospital bed was because you were trying to pull out my oxygen tube. You brought this upon yourself. How dare you claim you're not blaming me? Shen Jiannan furrowed his brows tightly, seemingly completely unable to comprehend my words. Anyway, just come back with me today, and we can discuss everything else later. Isn't that better? No, how many times do I have to say we're done? Amidst the tussle, many people around turned to look. At that moment, a sharp female voice suddenly rang out from the crowd. Shen Jiannan, I knew you never gave up on this bitch. I tilted my head slightly and met Chen Wan's resentful, jealous glare head-on. She rushed forward and started hitting me. You shameless woman, who told you to seduce him? Jiannan is heartbroken. I kept backing away, and the next moment Chen Wn was grabbed by Shen Jiannan, who seized her wrist to restrain her. Wanna, don't be impulsive, let me explain. After struggling for a while, Chen Wn finally looked at him with tear-filled eyes. Jiannan, are you abandoning me? Shen Jiannan was drenched in sweat, unable to explain his rebirth to Chen Wn. After struggling for a long time, he could only say, I'm not marrying Ju Yao, it's just that she knows how to treat my father's illness, and she knows how to please my mother. I just want her to stay and take care of my parents. This excuse was rather flimsy, and Chen Wan didn't believe it at all. You've got ulterior motives towards Ju Yao, haven't you? You want to marry me while keeping her on the side. Shen Jiannan, what era do you think this is? The days of having a main wife and concubines are long gone. Why won't you just listen to me? Shen Jiannan found himself tongue-tied, unable to explain his way out of the situation. As the stalemate dragged on, Liang Jun, who had been listening quietly nearby, stepped in at just the right moment to help me out. Shen Jiannan, what makes you think you can ask someone else to take care of your parents for you? If you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, just say so. His words were deliberately laced with sarcasm, mocking Shen Jiannan's unrealistic fantasies and driving a wedge between him and Chen Wn. Sure enough, Chen Wn exploded upon hearing it, grabbing Shen Jiannan by the collar and demanding an explanation. Seizing the opportunity, Liang Jun and I quickly boarded a southbound train. The train whistle blew, bidding farewell to everything in the capital. Thank you, Liang Jun. On the train, I whispered my gratitude. He blinked and chuckled softly. You're welcome, just doing what I should. After arriving at our destination, we parted ways, wishing each other a smooth and prosperous future. For a period after that, life was busy yet fulfilling. Recognizing the business opportunities and trends, my small venture flourished quickly and soon reached a modest scale. Thinking of the Shen parents' health, I eventually wrote down some care instructions and mailed them to their home, but instead of a reply, I was met with Shen Jiannan, who arrived covered in dust and exhaustion. What are you doing here? Shen Jiannan, do you not understand human language or what? Looking at Shen Jiannan, I couldn't hide my annoyance as I questioned him. Yet he wore an ingratiating smile on his face. Ju Yao, my parents miss you dearly and want you to come back for a visit. You haven't been back in years. So think of it as catching up. Okay. Seeing his expression, I refused outright and doubted the sincerity of his reason. At least make your lies believable. In our past life, I spent far more time accompanying and caring for them than you ever did. What's the real reason? Seeing this, Shen Jiannan finally had no choice but to tell the truth. It's because my parents' health is failing, I exclaimed in shock. How is that possible? Didn't I write them a letter just before the new year? By my calculations, your mother should be developing rheumatism around now, and your father's bronchitis would need a change of herbal prescription. Didn't I specify all this in the letter? A hint of unease flashed across Shin Jiannan's face before he spoke hesitantly. The letter, I did receive it. But before I could read much, Chen Wn snatched it away and tore it up. I immediately understood. It was jealousy and resentment. When talking about Chen Wn, Shin Jiannan had more to say. His words filled with dissatisfaction toward her. Ju Yao, I've only now realized how good you are. Chen Wn, she's completely useless. Every time my father falls ill, she just cries and doesn't know what to do. My mother doesn't like her either. She even went back to my grandmother's old house for some peace and quiet. What kind of life is this? I've realized Chen Wn is only good for romance, not for real life. He said this while looking at me with complete sincerity. They genuinely miss you, and that's part of why I'm asking you to come back, although I also missed Shin's parents. I knew the path of this life was different, and I couldn't repeat past mistakes, so I firmly refused. Shin Jiannan, I can't go back with you anymore. Our fate in this lifetime has come to an end. But if he wants those prescriptions, I can rewrite them. Shin Jiannan stared at me deeply for a long moment. His eyes slightly reddened, and ultimately had no choice but to agree, but as I was writing, a woman suddenly lunged forward and tore up the letter once again, shouting angrily, "Fine. Shin Jiannan, I wondered why you hadn't come home for so many days, so you came south to find this wretched woman. You never truly cut ties with her." Chen Wan's jealousy flared uncontrollably as she glared at us with extreme displeasure. Shin Jiannan's temples throbbed as he gritted his teeth and patiently explained. Chen Wn, can you stop making trouble? I came here this time for the prescription. Even though Shin Jiannan stated his purpose, Chen Wn still refused to accept it. Who would believe you? Any doctor can write a prescription. Why must we seek this despicable woman's help? Her unreasonable behavior finally pushed Shin Jiannan to his limit for the first time, and he slapped her outright. Shut up. When will you ever stop? Chen Wn, having been struck, wore an expression of utter disbelief. How could you hit me? Shin Jiannan, I'll never forgive you again. Chen Wan's tears burst forth as she covered her face and ran away once more. Watching the speeding vehicles on the road, my heart sank. Just as I was about to call out a warning, the accident happened. Bang! With a loud crash, Chen Wan's body was sent flying several meters like a kite with its string cut, struck by a large truck. Blood flowed from her lifeless form. Wanna. Shin Jiannan froze for a long moment before letting out a howl and pouncing forward. Meanwhile, I took advantage of the chaos to slip away, terrified that he might go crazy and latch onto me again. Repeating the tragedy of my past life, but I had clearly underestimated Shin Jiannan's ability to find people. Within a few days, he showed up at my doorstep, looking haggard and tearfully offering a sincere apology. I'm sorry, Ju Yao, I misunderstood you. In my past life, it was also my fault. I harmed you. It's all my mistake. This time, he didn't blame me but calmly accepted Chen Wan's death. I beg you, come back with me. I promise I'll treat you twice as well. Looking at his pleading expression, I still refused. Shin Jiannan, how many times do I need to say it? We've been over for a long time. Our fate has run its course. Tears still streaked Shin Jiannan's face as he looked at me, utterly heartbroken. What's going on? Do we have a guest? At that moment, Liang Jun appeared from behind and wrapped his arm around me in a very intimate manner. Xiao Yao, what took you so long? I froze for a second before quickly realizing he was pretending to be my boyfriend to help me out of the situation, so I immediately hugged him back. It'll be over soon. Go back and wait for me first. Shin Jiannan glanced at Liang Jun, then back at me. Though shocked, it was something he had anticipated. In the end, he left with a face full of dejection. Not long after, I received news of his suicide while on a supply run. Feeling slightly regretful, Shin Jiannan left me a suicide note, in which he expressed his wish to be reborn again, to change the past, and to be with me once more. I feel nothing about this. Even if he were reborn, we wouldn't be in the same timeline, and that person might not even be me anymore. After writing a comforting letter to Shin's parents, I went back to restocking. Liang Jun stood waiting for me at the intersection ahead, arms crossed with a half smile. Miss Ju, Would you be interested in turning our fake relationship into a real one? I raised an eyebrow and looked at him for a long moment before letting out a scoffing laugh. Alright then, let's see how you perform. Liang Jun was taken aback by my smiling face, then spoke in a deep voice. Ju Yao, I will treat you well for the rest of my life. In his eyes, there was a determination I had never seen in Shinjiannan's gaze. Seeing this, I curled up the corners of my mouth. Alright, come over and lend a hand. Help me stock the goods. From then on, everything was settled. That's all for today's story. If you've listened this far, please leave happy every day in the comments. A little light wishes everyone happiness every day.